I've caught more than 300 predators over the last decade. And Crimewatch Daily was there as some of the worst were taken down. You got a seat right around that store right there in front of us. Why don't you take a seat right over there? Please take your hands out of your pockets.
No, Chris.
What are you doing here?
Chris.
All right, I gotta stop right there. That's your daughter. Clearly, that boy took an image of your daughter and did something incredibly inappropriate with it.
She came home sobbing.
So I'm assuming,
yes,
and trying to be somewhat delicate about this, that he put a photo or a drawing of a part of the male anatomy
in her mouth.
In her mouth.
Mm-hmm. And that could be out there forever. And that's just technology now. So now my daughter's face is linked with that forever.
He tortured me. I felt like a prisoner. I was alone. He abused me every chance he had.
You found your daughter.
I did. With the help of the PD.
As a parent, I have a hard time even getting my arms around that.
I think as a parent, you would rather you find your child than someone else. It's the last act of protection you can give your child.
How did you hear that your son had been killed?
Well, I knew he had gone missing. And,
I'm Chris Hansen, how are you? This town, this state, this county has a heroin epidemic and you're a part of it. Right. Why do you think that's okay? Then why are you doing it? You had heroin in the car, you had needles in the car.
Stolen.
Then what are you doing in a stolen car with a stolen gun trying to sell heroin to a woman on the streets?
Did I sell any heroin?
You offered to sell it to her.
Yeah.
We listened to it. We listened to it.
Did I?
It was on a wire. You know what I'm saying? What should happen to you? Whatever happens. Come on out, Joshua.
Oh.
You have a seat right over there, please. What do you think should happen to you?
I guess I have no choice but to go to jail.
I know, I didn't want to say it. Can I tell you something? All week, I was like, do I say take a seat when he gets up here? I say it all the time, but not within this context. This is a unique opportunity.
So last week we're at the Emmys.
Yeah.
And we won one, which was kind of cool.
By
Thank
the
you
way.
very much.
Yeah, applause, please, because
Appreciate that, thank you.
second season, and they got an Emmy.
So I had to present both Friday and Sunday night because they split them up. So I walk out there Friday night and I said, on behalf of the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, will you all please rise? Everybody, the whole auditorium in Pasadena stands up. I said, take a seat over there. You take a seat over there. I always wanted to do that.
That's
I saved it for that
amazing.
moment, you know.
That is absolutely amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on the Emmy, on this fantastic show.
It's a great
Season
show.
2, you guys
Yeah.
are doing great. Tell me a little bit about Crimewatch Daily. What sets it apart from some of the stuff you've done in the past? Why you're excited to be on it?
I'm excited because it's tailor-made for me, Matt. It's a show that's on 5 days a week, an hour a day. So if we want to devote an hour to the heroin epidemic in America, we can. Next week, we're devoting an hour to human trafficking, which we can do. And the producers at Warner Brothers and Telepictures give me a very long leash to do this. So I can't think of anything better for me to do.
Yeah. How'd you get involved with this show?
We had talked a few years ago about doing something, and I was looking to branch out and do some different projects. You know, I'd done 20 years at NBC and Dateline, and that was great. Still have a great relationship with everybody there. But it was time to do something different, and this afforded me the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Well, it's a really cool show, especially, I don't think it's the first of its kind, daily at this time slot.
Daily crime show. We're the
Yeah.
only thing like it in its space. And, you know, we're talking about branching out and doing some other stuff, but, you know, every day in 208 markets across America,
Wow.
it's an hour of TV, enterprise reporting, hidden cameras, and just creative people really doing a great job.
I was reading about this notion of the extended newsroom, because you have all the different network affiliates that work together. Is that the kind of thing that maybe wasn't even practical or possible not too far ago, depending on technology? And like having everyone sort of coordinated to work on these stories together?
Every morning, there's an email that comes out on affiliate alerts. So we're in 208 markets, as I said, across the country. That's 208 newsrooms, all feeding information into Crimewatch Daily in New York and Los Angeles. So we have the benefit. It's like our own network, essentially.
How much time, so you just mentioned you've got the human trafficking special coming up, you've got the heroin epidemic. It's a daily show. So how are you guys able, how large is the team that you're able to produce these segments and go in depth and churn these hours out?
It's a big team, including me. We have, 5 reporters who go out and produce 15 new segments per week. And so it's a logistical juggling act to get it done. But we have some of the smartest people in the business putting it together. And we all team up. And sometimes you work weekends. I mean, Sunday I was in Long Island. Saturday I'm in New Jersey. Yeah. Monday through Thursday I'm shooting the show. So we go where we have to go and do what we have to do. And now we're getting to the point where it's so organized that we can go in the field. For instance, during that tragic story where the 2 girls were murdered in Delphi, Indiana, we did the show in Delphi, Indiana.
Wow.
Just because we've become so nimble that we can do that.
You can just pick up and you can drop into location and film right there.
Automatic pilot, just do it.
That's pretty amazing. I'm wondering what drew you. So, like you said, you were at NBC. You're 20 years. You've been a journalist for a long time now. What made you gravitate towards crime journalism and towards sort of this aspect of it and digging into these stories?
I'll tell you a funny story. When I was 14, Jimmy Hoffa was kidnapped from a restaurant 1.5 miles from the home in suburban Detroit where I grew up.
No way, really?
And I was fascinated by it. So I rode my bike up there, and I was watching the crime scene, the yellow tape, and the FBI agents, and the cops, and the network correspondents, and the local reporters, and I just got bit by the bug right then. So when I went to Michigan State University, I just signed up for the campus radio station, and off I went.
That's like a superhero origin story that you were 1.5 blocks away and rode your bike over there, and just as a young man, just like looking around.
Well, that's what happened, I was curious about it.
Well, there was no internet or anything like that at that time. If you wanted to be a part of it, you had to ride your bike and go there and be a part of it.
I've been in this business so long that the first cell phone I had at Channel 7 Action News in Detroit, it was so heavy that I had to seatbelt it into the passenger seat of my car because it would make the alarm go off. I mean, it was like 3x3.
Was it the one that had the pack that you had to wear as well?
No, it was like this.
No, it was just this contained massive unit.
Block of technology with a phone on top. And I got back one day because we're covering a murder trial that was beyond where we could use two-way radios. And the assignment manager said, "Do you have a girlfriend in Chicago?" I said, "No, but I'm not opposed to it." I said, "Why?" Because somebody called Chicago on that phone and it cost $300. Imagine one phone call to Chicago. That's how long. It was 1985 or 86.
That's madness.
Yeah.
To think of how dramatically, it's a different planet at this point. It's a different world.
Different business.
Yeah. I do, and I want to tap into that in a second. I want to tap into technology, how it's changed and how it's modified your approach. But I want to go back first and just talk a little bit about, To Catch a Predator, which was probably, it was a phenomenon when it came out. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was watching it. What was the impetus behind that show? What gave you that idea to
I got
set
a
up
call
those things?
from a fellow who took my job when I left Detroit to go to NBC. And he said, "Have you heard of this online watchdog group called Perverted Justice?" I said, "No, I haven't." "What do they do?" He explained it. I started to think if we could combine their efforts as decoys with our ability to wire a house with cameras and microphones, it could be pretty compelling. So I pitched the story. They bought into it, and a lot of smart people weighed into it, made it a better concept, and we did it.
Pretty compelling. Understatement of the year. Pretty compelling. Watching those videos, and it's funny. So it's back. You're doing Hansen versus Predators now. It's part of season 2. You've brought it back to Crimewatch Daily.
We did, and so if you can imagine, when we started these investigations in 2004, roughly, we merely had decoys on AOL and Yahoo. Well, today, there's Badu, Kik, all these different social platforms, and the entire landscape has changed. So there's more of this activity, and it's really a challenge to keep up with it. And we've got a different set of, online decoys. These people are really well trained, and they do a phenomenal job. And our last investigation showed that.
With so many more avenues and so many more platforms available, does it become even more of a overwhelming? Is it at times overwhelming or staggering how many people are out there attempting to do this that you guys are trying to snare in this trap?
Absolutely, because the opportunity is there. In our last investigation, which we did in Fairfield, Connecticut, we had 11 guys show up in 3.5 days, ranging from a Boston insurance executive to a fellow who was on the waiting list to become a police officer in Connecticut who was working for a cable company in people's homes every day, was there to pick up a 13-year-old girl. In his car, after his arrest, they found a gun loaded, knife, duct tape, and a camera. And he wanted to take the girl for a ride, so you wonder how that's going to work out. And then a fellow who you just saw in the clip coming in, who I had met on the commuter train.
Chester Lawrence, right?
Yeah,
I wanted to
Charles
ask you
Lawrence,
about this, or Charles rather. Yeah, sorry.
He was on. I wasn't a close friend or anything, but I
you
seen
knew
him
him.
a couple years. But I knew him from the train.
In your years of doing this,
Never.
300.
Never.
That's never.
Never. The only time.
Does that make it? It's already a scary thing to begin with, but when you see a familiar face, that has to change your perspective. You've been doing this for years.
I see the monitor in the other room.
Yeah, so you know.
I walk out. Now I still haven't put two and two together.
Yeah.
I walk out. He sees me. He says, "No, Chris, it's not what it seems." You know, and it takes me a minute. I said, "That's the guy from the train."
Yeah.
And of course, the crew thinks he just knows me from TV.
Yeah.
You know, but it was a guy from the train.
It's wild.
He's doing 2 years in prison now.
Well, good job.
Well.
I mean, and that's the thing. There's something. Watching back, I watched some of the new ones, of course, for Crimewatch Daily, and even when the audience, we were watching one of the clips earlier, there's such a, I don't know if conflicted is the word, but as you watch it, as an outsider, as an audience member, at first, these moments are humorous in a way, because you watch them, they watch them try to lie their way through, and you watch them stumble through, and there's this great feeling. Whenever you see justice served, you feel good as a viewer. But the reality is, I mean, these are people's children. This is a heavy situation. There is nothing
right, and there's no gray area here because it's not entrapment. I mean, the decoys go into these chat rooms. They are using pictures that are unmistakably of underage kids. They're very clear. They never make the first move. The potential predator has to approach first and raise the specter of sex. It's the cleanest investigation you'll ever get. And you wouldn't have 11 guys in one investigation all pleading guilty in very short order if they weren't strong cases.
Yeah, I would say watching it, every single moment of it's documented, every step of the process. I mean, it's the way you guys did everything. It's
clean justice.
It's totally clean justice, and I think that's part of the gratification in watching it is that you're watching clean justice. Like you said, there's no gray area. You can just enjoy that. Here was a person that was going to cause some serious damage, and we've intercepted it, and now we move forward.
It's also the approach we take. I mean, anybody can jump out of the bushes and accost somebody and get 10 seconds of dramatic video. What we do, no matter how bad this guy is, whether it's a predator investigation, whether it's a heroin investigation, or whether it's the human trafficking investigation, or anything in between, I'm genuinely curious as to what goes on in this guy's mind to make him commit that crime. Traffic a human being, traffic heroin, become a predator. And so that's why these people talk to me. And that's what makes these stories so interesting, I think, to me, and I hope to the viewer.
Well, that's the meat and potatoes of it, is the confrontation. That's the moment we're all waiting for. We're waiting for you to jump out and say, "What the hell are you doing?" and talk to this guy.
Explain to me, what was going on in your head?
What could you possibly be thinking?
Yeah.
When you walk into those confrontations and you're standing over that butcher block, which, by the way, how do these guys not recognize the house by now?
Well, it's a different house every time.
Oh, okay, because I think I just saw three guys as part of the one thing.
There was a joke one time in Saturday Night Live. It said NBC has so many budget cuts to make that they're turning the Predator house into condominiums. You know. But they're all
sorry. That's a good joke. That's just a good joke.
Great joke.
That's a great joke. I have to laugh at that. But I do walk me through what's going on in your head when you walk out for that confrontation, because a lot of people would argue, especially with the behavior of some of these characters, that you're exercising some remarkable restraint in those moments when you watch these guys.
Well,
how do you
the
control
punishment
that
is up to
scene?
law enforcement and the judicial system. I'm not there to punish them. I'm there to ask the tough questions and, as I said before, get in their minds. So I'm not there to beat them up. I mean, I will if they give me a bunch of BS. I mean, I'm not afraid of going hard on these guys. But generally speaking, I want to start a conversation. Yeah. And that's how we do it.
And you're genuinely curious in those answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
What they have to say.
Yeah, everyone's different. I mean, somebody said, what do all these guys have in common? And I said, well, they don't stand out of a crowd. They could be the guys standing next to you at the dry cleaners or the wine store on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
And to which Jon Stewart said, I'd change cleaners if I were you.
Oh, man. That came up in one of the recent ones. There's a 64-year-old guy, and you were describing that he was just at the park and one of his things and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, we were just there. Like,
Yeah,
and there's just normal people walking around. When you ask the question, what should happen to you? What do you think should happen to you now? What kind of answer are you hoping for? What are you looking for when you ask that question?
I'm looking for honesty and some sort of transparency from a guy who obviously was there to corrupt a child and to commit a crime. And there is no right answer to that. What I hear sometimes is, I'm bad, I need to be punished, I'm sick, I need help. And I'm not doing it just for the lawyers, so they can say, oh, good, he's not going to sue us. I'm doing it because I really want to know.
I'm the 300 plus that you've talked to and gotten dead to rights. What's the craziest way they've tried to talk? What's the wildest response you've ever received? Because they all fall back on I thought she was somebody else. It's like,
yeah, I mean, it's about a 10-way tie for first, but I mean, the one that always surprises me, and we heard it again just last week in LA on this human trafficking investigation, was I was concerned for the young woman. I came here to help her and to sit with her until her parents got home or, she could get help. I mean, come on, really? And then I can go through the transcripts and say, I'm going to do blank, blank, and blank, and blank to your blank.
That's the gratifying part I'm talking about, is when you see somebody like in a bold-faced lie, and then God bless you. You just, no, that's not what's going on. And I have it written down right here. I have it written down.
Imagine being one of my kids in high school when they got in trouble.
I was going to say.
Sit right there. They'd rather I beat them than,
You're
to withstand the withering cross-examination.
The cross-examination. You were just telling me backstage that your kids work with you on some of the shows, right?
My older son is assistant cameraman on Crimewatch Daily and on Killer Instinct and on the Predator show, and then my youngest is a reporter for the NBC station in Traverse City, Michigan. So
that's amazing. So it's in the family. It's in the blood.
Well, we sit around and criticize each other's hard work every day. I would reverse that line a little bit.
Yeah, maybe tweak this a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you ever pull the card? I've been doing this for over 20 years, son.
34 years. Yeah,
34.
Yeah. And I paid your tuition, by the way. Yeah. And you still owe me $40,000. Yeah.
I'm the
a lot more than that. Actually.
You can make that critique.
Right. Exactly.
We're going to turn over to audience Q&A in just a second because I see our clock running down. But I know you were just saying this is your busiest time of the year, right? Because you're working on Killer Instinct. You're working on Crimewatch Daily.
Right.
When do you sleep, man? How do you do it?
Well, you sleep on planes. It's only about a 10-week period where we're shooting both shows, but it does get kind of crazy because I don't just anchor the show for Crimewatch Daily. I go out and report it. So we have a lot of stories. I have a lot of ideas. They have a lot of ideas for me they want me to do, which is great. I mean, our executive producers are, some of the most creative humans in this business, and we work really well together. And that's what makes this show fun. The whole staff, the Emmy we won was for editing. And these guys and gals who put this show together every day, imagine an hour show. Yeah. Now, I'm getting called back in the office till 9 o'clock at night because they cut on the West Coast. And it's not put to bed until the final track is written. And they work their tails off. I'm so indebted to them.
Well, it's a fantastic show, honestly. It's not, Hansen versus Predators is there, but the human trafficking stories, all this stuff. And I watched a great story online about the history of the guy who owns Scores and the mob and all of that.
Michael
City on that. Yeah, Michael, exactly.
But these guys talk to us because they know they're going to get a fair shake. They know they're going to have to answer the tough questions, but they're going to get a fair shake. I mean, the cannibal cop from New York, we had him on last week. Crazy.
Absolutely insane. Incredible. Well, listen, I know in New York, guys, it's weekdays at 1 on the CW11, but head over to crimewatchdaily.com. You can find out wherever you are when it's going to be on so you don't miss any of it, and it's definitely worth checking out. We're going to turn it over to audience Q&A. I see a microphone right in the front, right here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So what special advice would you give to criminal justice majors that has a difficult time with their emotions, dealing with, tough things like seeing dead bodies and things like that, and intense stuff like that?
It's funny because we were in Cleveland 2 Sundays ago, and my oldest son and I were in the car, and the producer was driving us to the airport, and he looks at me and said, I am so murdered out right now. I can't wait to do Flea Market Flip this summer, because that's his other gig for the summer. And everybody deals with this in their own way. And cops and federal agents have a real issue, especially the guys and gals who work in child exploitation. And imagine people who have to look at child porn every day just to document that. I couldn't do it. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some tough stuff, but I couldn't handle that. I'd be done. So, I mean, I don't know whether it's therapy or peer counseling or whatever, or just being open and honest about it, or choosing what you know you can do without flipping out. And people, we have a woman who's a lawyer and a psychologist in Arizona who we do some stories with, and she said, do you ever think about therapy? I said, no, everything's buried nice and deep. There's an asphalt cap over it. It's very safe where it is. I'm having a fine time in life. I cope with it just fine. I don't want to dig any deeper because it's only going to cause problems, But you just got to find your own way, and if you're getting edgy, talk to somebody about it. Yeah. Not everybody's got to bury it, and sometimes that's not the best plan either. But there are people to talk to.
That's great advice. Next question is from right here.
How you doing, John? A pleasure to meet you.
Hey, John.
Quick question. I want to know, what's the most uncomfortable situation you've ever been in, and have you ever physically felt threatened in any situation?
We were in India years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, doing a story on human drug trials. And we had posed as American executives trying to get a banned substance tested and approved. And we're in this boardroom, hidden cameras. They say, we know this is Vioxx, and this has been already banned in the United States. But then they say, okay, we can push it through. And so it comes time for me to say, I'm Chris Hansen, and they flip out. They flip out. They bring in a half dozen guards who look like Saddam Hussein with berets, and we are trapped in here. Now, do you fight your way out? Do you call the embassy? You call the embassy because you don't know what the laws are. But, I mean, we were in there and in the police department for about 6 hours. And then the car on the way back to the hotel, finally, when we're free, runs up on a median, and we're stuck there as we're watching townspeople in Ahmedabad, India, try to get our car off the median. So it was a long day that day, yeah.
Yeah, that's a long day.
And Ahmedabad is in the state of Gujarat, which is dry.
Huh.
So you couldn't even get a pop at the end of the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that would be that's the two.
That's on the top. That's on the top of it. But do I feel threatened? Look, we have a lot of precautions. Whether it's Hansen versus Predator, whether it's human trafficking, we have security, or whether we're just anchoring it, 53rd and Broadway. I mean, some nut could come up with a baseball bat and have a psychotic episode and do something weird. But I feel as safe as possibly we can be.
Yeah, that was going to be my final question, is knowing, kind of being on the other side, having done all this investigative stuff for years and encountering all these different things, you kind of see the matrix code for what it is at this point. How do you rationalize, how do you feel safe knowing the depth of all these, like how it could be anybody, could be anything?
Mike Mazza is our security chief. He hires good people to be out there, guys and gals, and there's a certain element of risk in doing this job, and you just deal with it. And I used to worry about it, and I used to worry about getting, deep vein thrombosis on a plane. I mean, you just can't worry about everything you do. You just got to live your life, stay in good shape, and go do what you do.
Well, that's a heck of a place to wrap. Do we have time for one more question? No, we're done. Yes, no, maybe, yeah. We got one more? I'd love to take one more if we could. Yeah, right here in the front.
Hey, Chris. So I was wondering, how much do you work with local authorities where you are? Do you have to, kind of let them know so that you don't get in the way of the investigation, or that you help them?
It's a great question, because the last thing you want to do is become the subject of an investigation by doing an investigation. So we, in the Predator investigations, Hansen versus Predator, we obviously work with local law enforcement and prosecutors, so everybody knows what they're doing, and these cases can go forward. In the case of human trafficking, when we were in DeKalb County in Georgia, we were undercover with the police department there. In LA County, we were with the sheriff's deputies undercover. So, 34 years in this business and covering crime, I know a cop in every town. Yeah. And so out of courtesy, we let them know what we're doing so we don't create a problem for them.
Have you ever been met with resistance from any local law enforcement or anything?
Yeah, sometimes, sometimes they just don't want to, for whatever reason,
Cameras around.
99.9% of the time, whether you show up in a town for a tornado or whatever it is, and you go to the counter and ask for the sheriff, help, yes, boy, get your butt back here. I'll take Chris Hansen for a ride to the crime scene. It usually works in our favor. Once in a while, though, surprisingly, I have a great reputation, I believe, in law enforcement, and so it works in our favor. But sometimes they just don't want to, work with you, and you move on.
Fair enough. Well, guys, like I said, it's crimewatchdaily.com to find out where you can see it. If you're in New York, CW11 weekdays at 1 p.m. Everybody, please join me in thanking Chris Hansen for being here.
I appreciate it.
What
Thanks,
a
buddy.
pleasure.
What a
Thank
fun
you.
time. Thanks for
Thank
having me.